Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Poisoner's Almanac. I am your co-host, Adam.
I'm Rebecca. I've got food in my mouth. I'm sorry.
Rebecca's in the middle. She's in the middle of this gorgeous Starbucks breakfast. She had to go out and get breakfast after she dropped our daughter off at school.
Because someone drank all the milk.
Someone.
And ate all the cereal.
Who shall remain nameless because it hasn't been confirmed yet who did these heinous things while you were out of town.
Yeah.
P.S. It was me. So she's in the middle of breakfast. And
yes, it was a crazy week. Okay.
Crazy week.
I deserve this.
So you deserve this. So Becca was actually out of town with her mom and our daughter for, unfortunately, the funeral of one of her uncles.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sad situation. He had been fighting cancer for a while, and unfortunately, he lost that battle. And Becca was also, on top of trying to get to this funeral and such, she was trying to race back in town to get our daughter to a concert that she wanted to sing in with the rest of her classmates. The traffic, there was a wreck on the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
Traffic was insanity. And so they ended up, a 2-hour trip took 3 hours and 45 minutes.
It was awful.
And so they ended up taking my daughter to, somewhere where she could hang out and play, which also did not work out. And then they just took her shopping next door.
She likes to shop.
She likes to shop. She'll do that. So wild times. Y'all, Becca has been grinding to get the research ready for this episode. I just want to shout her out specifically. I'm really proud of you. I know it took a lot of energy.
I did all the driving too, and
you did all the driving
because
your mother doesn't drive long distance, right? Is that
she can, but it's a scary experience.
Right. Her mother has had a collection of brain surgeries and eye surgeries. She has this is wild too. It's a congenital condition.
Yay.
That causes the formation of benign tumors or growths in the central nervous system.
It's neurofibromatosis type 2.
Neurofibromatosis type 2. So yeah, she's got that. She doesn't drive long distance, so Becca is responsible for basically accomplishing what amounts to 6 or 7 hours worth of driving. And does she like driving? No.
I hate it so much.
She hates it so much as a person with ADHD. Hate it so much.
But you know what? This week is over. Thank God.
Yes. And here we are, Friday, baby, recording the podcast.
Which I wasn't sure was going to happen because
we were not sure.
I was up late writing the rest of these notes last night.
Becca was basically up until 1 o'clock in the morning, getting these notes ready for you all, the lovely listeners. And
and I finally got some DMs answered and a few things because I've just been really behind with everything because of this week.
Oh, Instagram DMs, you say?
Mm-hmm.
On the podcast Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Poisoners _almanac on Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Link in the show notes?
That one.
So it's been wild, but we're here. Let's do some housekeeping for the old podcast real quick.
You better.
Make sure you're following us on whatever platform you're listening on. You can follow us on our socials. There are links in the show notes to do that. Specifically, make sure you follow that there podcast Instagram, Poisoners _almanac, as I said before. How many what are we up? 800 followers now?
800 something.
Ooh. Guys, let's get that to 1,000. Let's get that old 1K. You know what I'm saying? Come on. We believe.
That's your social media voice.
That's my social media voice.
Hey, you guys.
That's so fetch.
Hey, you guys. Oh, my God.
Also, thanks in advance for leaving 5-star reviews on whatever platform you're listening on. Specifically on Spotify, you guys are leaving 5-star reviews in, truckloads. There's a ton of them now. Thank you so much for that. That serves like a tip jar because it pushes the podcast further into the algorithms, and it will provoke the algorithm to serve this podcast up on a silver platter to other listeners like you who will also love
not
it.
Silver.
Not silver. The Patreon is up and running, as many of you know. Link in the show notes to join that. If you want to financially support the podcast, go to the Patreon link. You can also join the Patreon as a free member. But if you are so provoked and so passionate,
I am working on bonus episodes for paid members.
You already started work on it?
I've been working on it. I started that this week too, which is probably kind of a mistake because
oh wow.
I was so behind on everything else. But I'm trying to work out like a good schedule to sort of fit that in, because I do want, and I know I already have topics that I know that I want to talk about. So I've started
oh my gosh,
getting that together.
So these will be like half-hour bonus episodes.
Yeah, that's the
only
plan
for
so far.
Right.
Yeah.
Only for the paid Patreon members. Becca is going to, will it be like an aspect from the actual episode that you'll go deeper on? Is that the plan? Or is it
maybe it's something I've mentioned or something that pops up during research that I'm just like, we should talk about more of that because that sounds fun. Even if it's not, and it may be poison related, it may be like sidetrack, you know, from poison stuff.
Totally.
Maybe it's crimes related to poison, or maybe it's similar things to that. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah,
looking right in their face, and you're like,
I'm so tired. But
so that's really exciting.
We need to get a good camera so we can do some like video versions too.
Listen,
it'd be fun.
Okay, listen, folks. On that note, we are kind of brainstorming about adding the video component to the podcast.
Yeah,
we'd like to do that, but again, that's going to cost more. That's going to cost money. You know, the logistical turnaround, all that stuff. But y'all let us know if you want the video component that bad.
It'd be fun,
and we'll make it happen. Also, we were also kicking around the idea of, does Patreon support live streaming? Can you live stream on Patreon?
One way to find out.
Right. So we'd love to do that. We'd love to, you know, live stream for paying patrons, just Q&As, you know, shooting the bull, that kind of stuff. So yeah, the link to the Patreon is in the show notes. And another perk of being a paid patron is being shouted out by name on the old podcast. Our paid patrons are as follows: 87 Pens Girl 71, Mara Santiago.
Oh, she says hi.
Mara does?
Yes.
Amazing.
I was supposed to tell you hi. I saw it on the DMs.
Oh, fantastic. Where in the world is Mara Santiago?
You say that every time.
I do. I love it. Hate the Fairy. And we read our share of fairy, fae, fantasy fiction.
Yeah.
It's a lot of F's. Grace Lahan, Genevieve, Nahev Shetreat, Jay Went, Incan Hafner, Kiri Yorsek, Tay of Sunshine, Monique, Shane R., Sue Steves, James Mills, Megan Geiler, Liz B., Woolly Woof NZ, probably top of the list of my favorites right now. It's between Tay of Sunshine and Woolly Wolf NZ. Mama G, Nicole Rivers, Richard Miyako, Heather Nolan, and Katie Rose. And I believe those last three are and also Kaylee. Can't forget Kaylee. The last four on that list are brand new since our last episode.
Oh,
Thank
welcome.
you guys so much. Welcome. Also, we have listener supporters on Spotify. They are as follows: Taylor McCaleb, Carl Ziegler Jr., Drew Revis, Delshawn Harris, and also Heather Nolan.
Oh, nice.
Heather Nolan is double dipping as a paid patron.
We have a couple of those, actually.
Do we really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, like, y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all send me recommendations, too, if y'all have something y'all want to hear about, too. Whether it's for a regular episode or a bonus episode. I know we've gotten some things in the reviews, like, let's talk about the plague. And I do want to kind of institute a few things in there.
That's a good
like
one.
With, because we talk about poisons, but we could totally branch out and talk about like viruses, bacteria, crazy things that can totally attack the body.
You are neck deep in DMs with a microbiologist.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Just giving me some book recs, so I'm excited about that.
Yes. That's so cool. Okay. So just keep in mind, folks, listener support on Spotify is only available to the US-based listeners. Patreon's available to the entire world. So, you know, if you feel the need to transition or what have you, just want to let you guys know there are options. And as always, send questions or content suggestions to the podcast Instagram with a comment or a DM. Or you could do that on Patreon. You could any of the socials, you know. So also, I just need to check in and see if you have any new information as to how many superheroes were created by the Chernobyl disaster?
Absolutely none. But there were a couple of villains, I'm sure, that came out of it.
I have an alternative set of facts. I'm pretty sure that there were 37 superheroes.
Maybe in an alternate universe.
That's what I meant.
That'd be cool.
That's what I meant. That's what I mean by alternate set of facts.
But no, a lot of people just died. Because radiation will kill you.
Yes. So, anyways, what are we talking about today, my dear?
All right. Well, this is going to be an interesting episode because Halloween is less than a week away.
You mean Christmas?
Yeah. And that's crazy. No. Yes.
Yeah.
For me. Yes.
Halloween is your Christmas.
I get
Let's be honest. You have Christmas just fine.
Yeah.
But really, what holiday do you get up for the most during the year?
Halloween,
sucker.
But yes. And it's crazy as this
You're so good looking.
Oh my gosh.
I missed you.
As crazy as
this... make out?
Can you not?
Okay.
As crazy as this season has been, between hurricanes, sprained wrists, family stuff, all that fun stuff, crazy stuff with Camilla's school, everything. I'm not going to let this holiday be taken from me. Have I decorated? No. But I have researched.
That's right. Priorities.
So my brain is decorated, I guess you could say.
Your brain is decorated?
Yeah.
That's one way to say that you have ADHD.
My brain's decorated. It's, yeah.
Oh, man.
So, anyway, yeah. So Halloween, Samhain, whatever you want to call this spooky season, wherever you are, we're going to have a wild episode, kind of Halloween-y-ish. So let's do it. This one is and I labeled this one as witches, goofers, root doctors, and zombies because we're going to talk about some aspects of poison that are amongst the supernatural. Some of these stories are more folklore, and some of these are true, at least the people in them. So I will make sure to differentiate between those.
Awesome.
So let's bring something up that we've definitely talked about a little bit in the past. Witches and witch hunts.
Witches get stitches.
Do they?
I don't know. I'm co-opting the phrase snitches get stitches.
Maybe snitches of witches get stitches. Okay, so we've definitely discussed the Salem witch trials when we were discussing ergot back in the day, the fungus that can get on the wheat, and then like if it's contaminated, you eat the bread. It's a bit of a start having some interesting visions and hallucinations and fun times. So we talked about that a little while ago. Yeah, but what about the beliefs of witches themselves, and where do some of the stereotypes come from, such as like the broom riding, the flying, cauldron using, all that kind of stuff? Well, I really want to talk about the first one, the broom flying, because if you think about it, it's like, yeah, duh, witches fly on brooms, right? We all kind of know how that story goes, but like you think about like why a broom?
Right. Tell us where that comes from.
And it's funny because like I've played Hogwarts Legacy,
Yes.
And it's fun. And then when you get a broom, it's like, I can finally get around places, right? But it's like it doesn't come into your mind like, why am I riding a broom? Anyway. So yeah, the association with brooms may come from an old pagan fertility ritual that was held during a full moon, during which farmers would apparently hop and dance over broomsticks, poles, and light tools to encourage crop growth. So that's just a fun little backstory, I guess.
Wow.
But the word broom actually comes from the Middle English word for the shrubs used to make those brooms, also called basums at one point. Basums.
Okay.
Basums. Now, witches were said to ride brooms to their many orgies or sabbats. Sabbats. Or whatever. Like literally who has the time? But okay.
Was that the doorbell?
It was the doorbell. I'm not answering it.
Me neither.
Anyway. Creepy. Maybe it's a witch.
Okay.
I'm not a witch, I'm your wife. Sorry. Now,
to blave.
Anyway, these brooms and similar tools were common in most homes, but what was used on them in the stories that some told was not. So, beginning in the 15th century, those accused of witchcraft were said, typically by religious men, of course, to use something called flying ointment. It was also called like witches ointment at one point. They would use this flying ointment on their brooms or simply on their skin. Now, this ointment was apparently hallucinogenic in nature and would transport the witches to like their black Sabbaths and visits with the devil or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I literally just dissociated. I'm so tired, y'all. I'm so tired.
That's real.
I just started daydreaming.
That's real.
Not even gonna lie.
Why can't you drive on a parkway?
Oh my god. Now, some argued that witches physically visited these locales to meet with demons, and others said that these flying ointments transported their souls and made them believe they were flying, so sort of like a spiritual transportation. Whatever the case, witches were said to mingle with demons and do other more naughty things with them. Naughty. But yeah, these religious dudes' minds were honestly just really dirty, in my opinion. Like all these like Puritan religious guys were literally thinking just like, why, how are you coming up with this stuff?
Immediate hard pass.
Yeah. You know what? A nice Puritan woman said no. And they were like, witch! Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Anyway, now, the flying ointment, for example, was believed by some to be used on brooms because when ridden on, it obviously goes between the legs. You with me so far?
Uh-huh.
And it apparently absorbed through the mucous membranes faster. You still with me?
Okay.
So basically it was believed that the women were putting the ointment on the broom and then it would get applied on their,
You're kidding.
I'm kidding.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I'm even allowed to say any scientific terms like this, so I don't.
Okay.
I don't know how many kids are listening. I know at least 2 kids are listening.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Oh, yes, we do know
I
that.
have a friend who listens, and her kids like to listen to it too. So we're not going to go too much deeper into that. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay. So, yeah, other accounts say that witches would simply rub the ointment on the skin. Some say like at pulse points. And they would fall into these fits during which they supposedly like Netflix and chilled with the devil, I guess.
Okay.
See, I know how to use these terms.
Okay.
So, what's in the ointment? We know it was supposed to cause hallucinations, like flying, duh. And one common recipe was apparently atropa belladonna, so deadly nightshade. And all of these we've talked about in past episodes. Henbane, hyoscine or scopolamine, mandragora officinarum, so mandrake, datura stramonium, Jimson weed, basically. So basically a cinch. Wow, what is a cinch?
It's when you like cinch up a trash bag?
I don't know where that came from in my brain, but okay. Basically a bunch of tropane alkaloids along with the fat of an unbaptized baby.
Okay.
I see, like these religious men's minds were like they're digging up dead babies and putting poisons on them and then putting them on their hoo-haws. That's basically what
this is saying. This is a lot to take in.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and the lore was usually that it was a murdered baby. Like, how many murdered babies are in your graveyards? I'm concerned, or maybe I guess they thought like the women were killing the babies. Where were they getting all these babies?
And the infant mortality rate by itself would make it extremely difficult to procure said ingredients.
Anyway, others included aconite or wolfsbane, as well as various herbs and flowers. So the recipe was a bunch of different, pretty poisonous things, usually tropane alkaloids, things that would kind of induce some sort of psychotic or hallucinogenic effect. So
I mean, that's hallucinatory.
Hallucinatory?
Hallucinogenic, either way. I'm with you.
Hallucinostory. Now, one scholar that I read about Giovan Battista della Porta in his 1558 book De Miraculis Rerum Naturalium.
Is it Latin?
Yes. But it's
the 40% certainty just now.
Like, just what he reported was, by boiling human child fat in a copper vessel, they get rid of its water, thickening what is left after boiling and remains last. Then they store it and afterwards boil it again before use. A lot of boiling happening up here.
Yeah.
And with this, they mix celery, aconite, poplar leaves, and soot. I think we've actually mentioned how celery was like huge in the folklore of some places, though.
Like vaguely remember that.
It had some representation with death and all that. Or with acarus cinquefoil, the blood of a bat, nightshade, solanum, and oil. I'm guessing the blood of a bat because they were trying to pretend like they were flying, or like they were trying to get the effect of flying. Poor bat. I like bats. Then they smear all the parts of the body, first rubbing them to make them ruddy and warm to rarefy whatever had been condensed because of cold. When the flesh is relaxed and the pores open up, they add the fat or the oil that is substituted for it. It's so weird. And like, I don't think there's any evidence that any such ointment ever even existed. Like, they're just sort of making this up, and they're like, yeah, they use they called them like unguents. They're using those unguents, and they're flying to meet the devil.
Okay.
Anyway, pretty dark, but
they're eating the dogs.
Oh my god!
Sorry, it felt like the time.
Now that song that somebody made is gonna be in my head.
Oh, man. That's
from TikTok.
Culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they had it too, apparently. Now, pretty dark stuff, I know, but you have to be pretty creative to come up with this stuff. And remember, any confessions that were used during this time for witchcraft, they were all obtained using torture. So, even when you have like eyewitness accounts, as they say, or like confessions or whatever, a lot of them were brought about with torture. Anyway. So next topic for discussion, goofer dust. Not even kidding. Don't laugh too much.
Interested.
Don't laugh too much because this stuff is pretty serious for those who believe in voodoo or hoodoo. Mostly hoodoo.
I just love that hoodoo is a real word.
Yeah, well, I think hoodoo is the more malevolent stuff. So
I mean, obviously, the H is a more menacing consonant.
Hoodoo, you do. Sorry, but yeah. So this actually comes from the traditional Congo religion of the Bakongo people of Central Africa. Okay. Now, goofer comes from the Kikongo word kufwa, meaning to die. So it's pretty specific. Now, while goofer dust is a noun, you can actually use goofer as a verb as well. So like you could say, she goofered him. Or,
goofer? I barely know her.
And like, all I see though is like, if you say something like she goofered him, all I see is like that scene in a Goofy movie at the beginning where Max is having that dream and he like that nightmare and like he's becoming his dad and he's like, oh, yuck, right? And like he's been goofered.
He's been goofered. All alone.
That movie is amazing, by the way.
It's canon.
It is like one of the best Disney movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the soundtrack,
gosh,
so good. Anyway,
eye to eye. If you just start that song, like everybody from that age group is like, oh my god, high art.
It is amazing. Now,
it belongs in the Louvre.
The goofer is to essentially poison someone, but not necessarily physically. Okay. You basically curse someone with bad health and eventual death. So it could be used to make someone blind or cause a deadly illness that can't be cured. In a sense, it is a poison that kind of works as a spell. Turn to page 394. Anyway, but what is goofer dust? Some simply equate it to graveyard dirt. Others add more to it, like snakeskin, ash, powdered sulfur, powdered bones, powdered insect parts, dried manure, herbs and spices, something called anvil dust, which is like the iron leftovers from like a blacksmith's anvil.
Mm-hmm.
Some have described it as containing graveyard dirt, gunpowder, and church bell grease. Interesting.
Okay.
More modern, yes, I said modern recipes, because you can actually buy this stuff on like Etsy. I'm not even kidding.
You found it, huh?
Yeah, you
There's
can.
listings
There's
for it.
TikTok shop goofer dust. Okay, you can.
Wow.
Yeah, this stuff is still it's still out there because like the whole voodoo hoodoo stuff, it's still out there.
Right.
It's not as prevalent, maybe, or as well known, but there are still practitioners and things like that.
Okay.
Now, sorry. Okay. But more modern recipes can include more dangerous substances like pesticides or insecticides, expired medications, and or biological wastes like blood, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some have believed it to be useful as love or gambling spells, and others believe that if salt and pepper are added to the graveyard dirt of a loved one, it can become a protection spell.
Okay.
So it has, there's different uses or stories behind them.
Protecting against grave robbers?
Well, no, like it becomes a protection spell probably against other like curses and things like that.
Right.
Now, it is not typically snuck into the food or drink of a victim, so they're not necessarily physically poisoned. But the original directions for use actually involve spreading this dust around the intended victim's home so that they would have to step on it, and then like it would rise up into them via their feet, causing their legs to swell, and it would lead to like incurable illnesses. Yeah, it's believed that the only possible remedies are ritual baths, removing the dust by cleaning the floors, sprinkling salt in the corners of the home to counteract the goofering. Yeah, or treatment as well as prevention or protection may also be done with a root doctor, which we'll get to in a moment. Other methods of goofering include...
It just sounds funny every time you say
goofering? Yeah. That includes burying the goofer dust in a graveyard. So like intentions of death, if you want to bury the goofer dust at an actual graveyard. Sneaking it into a victim's sock. It's interesting. Tossed into a crossroads. Or mixing it with the footprint dirt of the victim before like bottling the mixture and such. Like there's all kinds of like little rituals to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think goofer dust is actually, I think it's mentioned in that show Supernatural. So people who love Supernatural.
Is it now?
Yeah, I think there's mention of it in at least an episode. Now, symptoms of being goofered include sharp pains in the feet and legs. Looks like you can feel it coming, I guess, into your feet and legs.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by swelling, as well as poor luck, job loss. So
Also,
what? It's
poor
of course
luck.
it is. Sexual incompetence, confusion, and developing like illnesses such as diabetes, tuberculosis, angina, gout, high blood pressure, etc. Some even report victims crawling around and howling like animals. So like, yeah.
Typical Pentecostal church Sunday.
Well, it's funny because like there are some like voodoo, hoodoo,
You do.
practitioners that like have mixed some of this with more charismatic Christianity. There's a lot of like mixing of religions going on as well.
Okay.
So,
I was just joking at first.
No, there's actually a lot of that. Mm-hmm.
Why am I not surprised?
Some do, some don't. It's just yeah. As interesting as all of this is, there have been cases where like people have murdered others and blamed it on hexes. Like one such case was in New York where a man murdered his parents, and he fired his attorneys because he wanted to represent himself. I think there was something mentally
Immediate red flag.
Yeah. And he started discussing goofer dust and hexes and such as if like,
oh no,
but he totally murdered his parents. He did it. It was brutal. It was awful. He got 50 years. So he didn't get off at least, but it was just...
You're telling me
he was talking all kinds of stuff about...
There's no judicial precedent regarding checks notes goofer dust.
Well, we are going to get to a little bit of that when we talk about root doctors because...
Oh man.
Believe it or not, like We'll get there. Okay.
I need a lawyer to hear this episode and leave us some comments.
Okay, so now there is some mention of goofer dust or goofering in some old blues songs. There's a song called Black Dust Blues by Selma Davis. It was performed by Gertrude Ma Rainey. So Ma Rainey.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've heard her name.
In 1928. And the lyrics are, let's see, it was way last year when my trouble began. She says that again. I had done quarreled with a woman. She said I took her man. She sent me a letter, said she's going to turn me around. She's going to fix me up so I won't chase her man around. I began to feel bad, worse than I ever before. Lord, I was out one morning, found black dust all around my door. I began to get thin, had trouble with my feet, throwing dust about the house whenever I tried to eat. Black dust in my window, black dust on my porch mat. Black dust got me walking on all fours like a cat. And some of that's like repeated, but yeah. Interesting song.
Amazing. That's
so
yeah.
Yeah, and there's more than one song. That's just one, that just happens to be one of those songs that mentions. So it's it's been around. It's a pretty common.
Any idea where Ma Rainey is from? Okay. I wonder if she has any connection at all to
look it up though.
Deep South Gullah culture.
We're going to talk about that too in just a moment. I wouldn't be surprised though.
Because to have such a specific knowledge of that stuff and be able to put it into lyrical form, like it's like a tip of the cap to lore that you know.
Yeah. She was from Columbus, Georgia, so it could have been.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. Yeah. So I did say I was going to explain what a root doctor was, so we're going to get into that.
Let's do that.
Okay. All right. So here in the South, we have a lot of supernatural stories and folk tales that go back a very long time, obviously. Tales of haunted cities like Savannah, Georgia, many cities in the Carolinas, including my favorite, Beaufort, South Carolina, where I was earlier this week.
Yes, Lord.
And of course, anywhere in Louisiana or Mississippi, so, Florida. Honestly, anywhere in the South, and I'm not even talking about like Appalachia and the crazy stories that come out of there. Like we could talk all day about Appalachia and the cryptids and all kinds of stuff out there.
What is it called? The Foxfire. Shucks, there's a book. It's a collection of like stories from old Appalachian healers.
I know,
they tell
I know what
the
you're talking about.
wildest story. It's called the Foxfire something. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of crazy stuff. But if you want haunted houses, trees, lakes, whole towns, we've got you covered. We've got old graveyards with sinking headstones under towering old oaks with Spanish moss hanging and casting unusual shadows. All the creepy stuff.
That's right.
We've got Augusta, Georgia used to have a haunted pillar.
Yes.
We did. We had a haunted pillar at one point.
Yes, and the lore was, anybody that tried to destroy it, some sort of...
Or even touch it, for some people.
It used to be the site of slave trade. So slaves literally...
There was a whole story behind it.
Yeah.
But it was said to be haunted.
It's gone now. It's been torn down. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Don't ask me if those people are still alive, but apparently if you hit it or knocked it over or touched it, you would die. That was the story. I've never touched it. I don't even know where it's at. I know it's downtown.
I know the site where
it's been moved at least once. And that person didn't die, I don't think. Anyway, you're not supposed to touch the now non-existent cursed column.
Right.
But anyway. Now, I've discussed haints, the use of haint paint around the low country areas of the South, all that. Now, let's cover some practitioners of magic as well. I say magic, but it's mostly like folk medicine and some conjuring.
You're using magic in
some conjuring. Way. There is some spell work as well, but now root doctors are more well known among the older Black communities in the South, and they practice healing using medicinal plants. They have also become known for some folk magic similar to voodoo. some might be heard saying, "Oh, she put a root on him," similar to "Oh, she goofered him." What?
Yeah, I just remembered. I have heard. Okay,
She put a root on him.
exactly. Do you remember? Do you remember our friend Tavares?
Yeah.
He told me about that. There were people in his family
Mm-hmm.
that were trying to get rid of.
Mm.
They were. It sounded as if, and we know this person from being in church, charismatic Pentecostal churches. He talked about that. Basically, they were trying to perform what amounted to a deliverance. But the phrase he said, yeah, what they say is, oh, this person had roots put on them.
Yeah.
I never heard that phrase.
Well,
now I just made that. That's incredible. It's like a bomb going off in
well,
my brain.
yeah, there's actually a lot of mixing of religion in this as well. So some do, some don't. It just it just depends on the person.
Yeah, and he wasn't like being like, yeah, I'm into it.
No,
he was just saying this is like cultural.
It's really it's really interesting stuff because it is cultural and it does come from a deeply, I don't want to say rooted culture, but like it's pretty cool to read about.
Wow.
Now, the original practice of root doctoring came from West Africa, and those who were enslaved and brought to the Americas by white Europeans in the 17th and 18th centuries.
Yeah.
Now, the Gullah Geechee peoples in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida, they descend from Central and West Africa, and much of their rich culture and many practices can be seen and felt there. You ever seen their baskets? Like, they make these really beautiful baskets. And, like, their food, so good. Like, it's a whole cultural experience.
I just remembered the basket weavers in Charleston that hang out on Market Street. I think it's called Market Street. They will not allow. They're there. That's their trade. They're living. They will not allow you to take their picture because they have a spiritual belief that you're actually stealing
their soul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but they're it's pretty cool stuff to read up on.
Wow.
Now, early on, root doctors would treat the ailments of other slaves with like the use of such herbs as mint, Jimson weed, which we've talked about, datura, sassafras, and milkweed. And obviously, like, they were doing this sort of thing before being taken and enslaved. So when they got here, they basically had to they were kind of experimenting with the different like weeds and herbs and things like that here.
Oh, like the new things that are available to them.
Yeah. So they had kind of adapted to some of that. Now, they would also become known for helping to treat victims of spells. There's like an assessment that may be done to see if the ailment or issue was a result of being cursed or such thing. Healing from a spell involves various rituals and or potions. Many symptoms of such spells may be as simple as like a sudden onset of anxiety. Maybe I've got a root on me. I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, mine's not sudden. I've had anxiety since childhood. An illness or a feeling of that you're strangely drawn to someone, like a love spell, maybe.
What did you do?
Looking at you, Voldemort's mom.
Ooh. That is a great piece of lore. I just love that that's part of his history. That makes so much sense.
And there could be, or like, was it Ron Weasley being affected by the love potion in the Half-Blood Prince? When he's like, I love her. And like, it's like, no, you don't. Just here. Anyway, then he gets poisoned. Poor guy. They're going to kill me. There could be roots for just about anything, whether it's love, death, protection, money, court wins. Like, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Legal?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's even one called a shutmouth root. And I'm just like, nice.
I would like to have that at my disposal anytime.
Imagine if you had like that as a D&D spell. Shutmouth.
Shutmouth. I cast Shutmouth.
Now they would
I
also
rolled a nat 20, so it's permanent for you.
They would also offer mojos to be worn around on the body, so like around the ankles.
Is that where that term comes from? Mojo?
It could be.
Oh my god!
Or I'm not sure if it originated with them specifically. I'd have to look that up, but. And of course, all I'm hearing in my head right now over and over is Mojo Jojo from freaking Powerpuff Girls. Thanks, brain.
Watch Mojo.
But like you would like they would take like coins and stuff and like tie them on to like strings, and you could either put them in your shoes or attach them to your clothes. They would have Mojo bags full of like powdered bones or herbs or animal parts, whatever. So you could like wear them around your neck or bury them somewhere, whatever. Now, these were often for protection or attracting others or treatment of certain ailments, sometimes even to get rid of enemies. Goofer dust was not foreign to them either, as they would use or detect its use for others. Typically graveyard dirt for them. Now, after slavery ended, there was obviously still mistrust in white medical practitioners. Excuse me. There is a terrible history of some doctors literally performing experiments on unwilling and unknowing Black Americans. Like, there's a long history of pretty awful stuff like that happening. And root doctors were still a means for treating ailments and such. So people they trusted, they'd rather go to people you trust, right?
Totally, yeah. Especially within your own culture,
right?
That situation, yeah.
Now, root doctors can still be found today, actually, throughout the South, and they still offer healing and spiritual services. I've read accounts of those seeking to put roots on people to stop them from cheating, or to help with lawsuits or court stuff. Literally anything. Yeah, so it's not as prevalent as it used to be, but they're still around. Some have mixed the old beliefs of root doctoring with other religions, typically charismatic Christianity, as I mentioned before. Let's go. You have history with that.
A world I know very well.
And there was one minister who actually was like the founder of the Church of God in Christ kind of movement.
Excuse me?
During World War I. His name was Charles Harris Mason.
Okay.
And I mentioned this because I thought maybe you'd know some of this, but he was arrested in Mississippi for preaching anti-government sermons and avoiding the draft. He had actually converted to Pentecostal Christianity during the Azusa Street revival in 1907.
Oh, okay. So he's OG.
Yeah, but he believed in using roots alongside the gifts that God had given him, like the Christian God.
Out of town.
So like speaking in tongues, prophesying, but also using roots. So like kind of a combination.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
So yeah.
Okay. So Church of God in Christ still to this day is a very prominent Black church denomination.
I wonder if they believe in like the root doctoring stuff.
Dude.
Because like if he did, then maybe it got passed down.
I would love to know.
I'm curious.
Oh my gosh.
I'm very curious.
And you know what's interesting, just to tag on to that, Azusa Street was, it was a radical event in the history. It basically birthed the American Pentecostal church, but like it was still segregated.
Yeah.
Like in the very beginning, male, female, Black, white, minorities, and majorities, like everybody was in that room together. There were even women who were leading the meeting at times, which is unheard of for 1900, 1905. Excuse me. William Seymour was a Black man who was actually leading the meetings. Charles Fox Parham showed up, who was an associate of Seymour's before Seymour went from Kansas to L.A. As soon as Parham showed up, he started being racist towards the entire thing. Because he was a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Fun fact, white supremacy runs so deep in most American Pentecostal theologies. Like I've been learning a ton
unfortunate.
about it. Extremely.
Yes.
So anyways, of course they're going to start their own denomination because Azusa Street could not find their way, as radical of a an occurrence as it was, they could not find their way beyond racism. They just couldn't do it.
I will say it kind of makes sense to me though, because like I feel like there's because you see a lot of narcissism in power structures within a lot of religious groups like churches, and it's because like there's power to be had. Like people will listen to you. People will, it's a way to influence people, and so they like that power that they're given over other people.
I mean,
so
Kenneth Copeland is worth $700 million.
That man looked creepy.
Oh, he looks creepy, but the idea that man could amass $750 million in net worth, like that's power.
Yeah,
it is. It's real. Like somebody's believing it.
Yeah, it's just
Anyways.
It's crazy. So There's actually some pretty famous root doctors there were some in Beaufort, South Carolina. And I mentioned Beaufort because, we go to Beaufort quite a bit.
Oh,
It's just
the
one of
place,
our
man.
one of our favorite places to travel.
That's right.
It's very old, very pretty.
Uncommercialized.
Well, there's quite a few people living there now.
Yeah.
Traffic is a bit rough there now,
right. But the food's
good.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So these root doctors, still a thing today. I'm not trying to say it in the past tense, but these were back in the day. So one such root doctor was known as Dr. Buzzard from St. Helena Island near Beaufort. His real name was Stepney Robinson, and he was doing root work in the early 1900s. It was said that his father was a witch doctor before being brought to the Americas as a slave. Even though at this point there was a ban on doing that kind of thing, because slavery was technically abolished in 1865 with the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, apart from its use as a punishment for a crime, which I think is finally, there's still places that like do that.
Yes.
But yeah, but it would take some time before certain states and people actually would yield to that. It would take much longer, of course, for there to be equal rights. And honestly, the amount of racism even today, as we were talking about, is just insane. It's stupid insane.
The amount of sweet little old church ladies in their 80s.
Oh my Lord.
That have been patients of mine who have effortlessly used the N-word.
Or like,
is shocking.
Well, there's a lot of like quiet racism too. Like,
yes,
they will swear up and down that they're not racist, and then something will come out of their mouth, and you're like, that's pretty awful. Can't believe you said that.
Wow.
Oh my. Yeah. Anyway, it's unfortunate, but it's still around quite a bit. Anyway, Dr. Buzzard's father was said to be very gifted spiritually, in that this gift had been passed on to his son. So a lot of history there. Dr. Buzzard was actually known for chewing the root. So meaning he would actually chew on the root of a certain plant known for its magical properties. One of those plants was called John the Conqueror. It was like given that name. I'm not exactly sure which one that is, but because I saw different accounts of what it is, but yeah.
That's a plant with an ego problem.
Yeah, John the Conqueror. Now, he would often do this in court to protect clients from guilty verdicts or lengthy sentences. Yeah. And during one case, a testifying witness was said to have had convulsions on the stand and being unable to provide testimony at that point because while he was chewing the root, and just staring them down.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, he apparently had a bit of a feud with the local sheriff at one point, who himself had studied some root doctoring over time. This was a white guy, so they called him like a white witch doctor. Like,
they called him John the Conqueror.
I mean, yeah, I guess. There were a lot of Johns back there, so. But this sheriff, he looked into root doctoring enough that they started calling him the white witch doctor, basically. So he was looking into it too, but anyway, he had a bit of a feud with him at one point. Now, the sheriff had tried to charge him with practicing medicine without a license, but the witness in that situation ended up collapsing on the stand. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Now, he did get into a bit of trouble along with another root worker known as Dr. Bug. They had these are like aliases that they would use. They had real names too, but
okay.
This is what they would be known by. They were giving out arsenic-laced potions to help those seeking to cheat the draft for World War II.
Whoops.
So these potions
That's going to work.
Well, these potions would basically cause the heart just enough trouble for long enough to get these otherwise healthy men exempted. So it wouldn't kill them. Like, it was supposed to be in just enough amounts to make their hearts kind of
temporarily ill.
I don't know if it had long-term effects, but
what time period is that? Late 1800s, mid 1800s?
No, World War II.
World War II. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, because he was around early 1900s up until mid 1900s. So, yeah. Now, he was actually very successful in his work, and he was apparently well known throughout the states. Like, people from around the country knew who Dr. Buzzard was. Wow. He would do I think mail orders too sometimes, but he never he would never sign checks or things. I don't know if that was a I don't know if there was something like to that, like culturally or spiritually, or
That's a good
for him.
question.
I'm not sure.
Or my man just uses cash.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because like he helped his own court case, I guess, because I think in that case where they were trying to charge him with practicing medicine without a license, like he got off with like just a $300 fine, which is nothing to him because he was making lots of money doing this.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy stuff. Now, like after he died, actually, a bunch of people would start calling themselves Dr. Buzzard because of the notoriety that he had made for himself, his name.
I just love that so much.
Yeah.
I love how you could just impersonate someone in the 40s.
Yeah, that's me.
Yep, that's me.
I did it. So, yeah. Now, in keeping with the creepy vibes, we're going to talk about one last subject. Zombies! Not the ones from the movies where they literally rise from the dead.
Good, bad.
You must love you.
If you've seen Wreck-It Ralph, you know exactly what part of that movie we're quoting. It's so fun.
And we're not talking about the Minecraft ones either. If you're anything like my daughter, she loves the Minecraft zombies. She has like a couple of stuffed Minecraft zombies just hanging out in her room right now.
That's right.
Fun times.
As one does.
Yeah. Now, I'm actually talking about a practice that has been long discussed in Haiti of the possible zombification of people into slavery. Now, there have been many who have told stories about knowing someone who came back zombified or having claimed to be a zombie that was like now free. But there's only one documented case, sort of. Because like while there's a lot of like witness accounts and stories and stuff of this, I don't know how well you could prove that this happened. But we're going to talk about it. Okay?
Is there blood work?
There's been actual like research from people like at Harvard and actual psychologists, and so there's been some looking into it.
What?
Just hang in there with me. Okay. Now, in 1962, 40-year-old Clairvius Narcisse went to a hospital emergency room there in Haiti, after which he was admitted, then pronounced dead sometime later. Okay? Like 3 days later. He was put into the cold morgue for about a day before being buried. And those things get cold for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
However, he would later come back years later and tell family that he was actually conscious and able to witness his own burial, but couldn't speak or move at the time.
I thought he died.
They said he died.
Okay.
And it may have really looked like he was dead. I mean, there may have been symptoms showing that, like, maybe his heart rate was too faint to notice, or anyway.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they thought he was dead. They buried him, and he remembers being buried, but he couldn't move or speak. Okay.
It doesn't mercury poisoning do that? Like it mimics death. We did a poison a while back that.
Yeah. There's been a couple. I don't know about mercury, but there's been a couple that we've talked about.
Okay.
Now, after everyone had gone, he claimed a voodoo priest came and raised him from the dead, like a sorcerer came and raised him from the dead. And this is what he's experiencing. So, like, he doesn't know exactly how, or it's not like he knows the biology of why this is happening to him. This is what he's experiencing. So, raised him from the dead, and then he beat him and then brought him to this plantation to work with other zombie slaves.
Get out of here.
Now, when this voodoo sorcerer guy died, the zombies came to their senses and were free to go. So, of course, Narcisse went home and he was able to confirm for his family who he was. He actually had a scar that he said came from a nail being driven into his coffin before he was buried. Like it had cut him, I guess. It was on his face. And this is giving like Cirque du Freak vibes. I don't know if anybody else has ever read that series, but like, fun series when I was growing up. If you know what I'm talking about. There was a movie too, Cirque du Freak. They made a movie, but it was kind of different from the books. I don't know.
Okay.
It's got that guy from Talladega Nights, not Will Ferrell, but the other guy.
John Riley.
Yeah, John Riley plays Crepsley.
Did you watch that? Did we watch that or something?
I think
I feel
so.
like you pulled it up to stream it.
Yeah.
Some
Because I was
Netflix
like,
or
oh, I
something.
used to love these books. And I was like, what is happening in this movie? I mean, it was decent enough to like be, you know, kind of laugh at, but the books were obviously better.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving on. So obviously zombies are not real in the sense that we think about them, at least. So some searching for answers, such as Haitian-born psychiatrist Dr. Lamarck Douillon. He went to Canada to train, came back. So he's been around.
Mm-hmm.
And New York psychiatrist Nathan Klein decided that answers were needed because something toxic's going on. Like, this is weird. Like, it's because it's not just him talking about this. They just happen to have accounts that, yes, he did die at this hospital. Why is he now back in town?
Yeah,
kind of deal, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But there's been other stories that were not as they weren't as able to confirm about people being like, yeah, this happened to me too.
Yeah, he was like, there was a funeral. It was witnessed that he was buried.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so now eventually Harvard ethnobiologist Wade Davis was sent to investigate in the 1980s. And he would use some sources provided to him to find a voodoo practitioner so that he could attempt to figure out what was in this zombie formula that he'd heard of.
Okay.
Right? Now, it took him time to gain the trust of this practitioner, but the man eventually showed him how to make it. And some had hypothesized that tetrodotoxin, pufferfish poison, would be used, because it can make it seem like you're dead. Basically, you can't move.
Yeah.
You can't move, you can't speak, but you are aware. And there's other poisons similar to that, but yeah, tetrodotoxin's definitely one of them. Why does
this feel more plausible? This feels like this is really what happened.
It could be, yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
I can't believe this is so ornate. Okay.
Okay. And so now you would have to use it in like a very precise amount to not kill somebody.
Yeah.
But like, anyway, in most accounts, it was applied topically somehow. So in just the right amount.
Mm-hmm.
Then once the victim would be dug up, they hypothesized that they would be just constantly dosed with something like datura, which there is known as zombie cucumber. Okay. Because I guess it's been so like attributed to zombie stuff. Now, the former would make sense if Narcisse was right about being aware but unable to move or speak. Like I said, tetrodotoxin can do that before it kills you. But there have been those who were accidentally poisoned by pufferfish after ingesting too much or ingesting it unsafely and thought that they died, and they would wake up later in the morgue, like literally. So there have been some that survived it, but people thought they were dead, then come back awake later.
That's a lot to handle.
So yeah.
Okay.
Now, this cannot be proven to be an ingredient, however, because surprise, surprise, we don't actually have documented evidence that it was found in any of the zombification potions. We haven't had any evidence of them being actually analyzed. So we have ideas.
Oh. Okay.
But
this is the 80s.
No absolutes. And people have argued with Wade Davis, the Harvard ethnobiologist. Like, some people are like, it's plausible, and some people are like, I don't know, it sounds stupid to me. But anyway, it's a theory as of now. Now, we have witnesses, but we just don't know, like, if it's absolutely true. So, do these zombies exist? Maybe they do, and we just don't hear about it enough. But with zombies being pretty widely accepted in Haiti, his story is very much believed there. So, but yeah, that's the story that I had about zombies.
That's wild.
And believe it or not, I think I made it to only an hour. Yeah.
That was such a great, like, that actually sounds like, I understand people being skeptical, but at the same time,
yeah,
it's just plausible enough. Wow.
Yeah, to be able to like keep someone like aware enough to do what you want them to do, but drugged enough to have you under their control. And see, like, if the guy dies, the sorcerer or whatever dies, as they called him, then there's no more dosing of the other substance.
Yes.
And so that's when they would come to. So it's just like, we don't know how true this is that's going on, but it's been talked about enough that it just feels like something's happening to some of these people.
Totally. And that would behave
Yeah.
just like quote unquote magic.
Well, to them, yeah, because this is what they're experiencing. Like
Totally.
somebody could have applied this substance to them topically, shaking their hands, and you wouldn't
Yes.
know. And
the person who shook his hand or whatever is in league with the witch doctor.
Yeah, so you're just thinking like, okay, then you end up going to the hospital. You think you're sick, you die, you wonder why you're still aware while you're being buried, and then this guy comes over and
That's crazy. Oh man,
it's a lot. So I don't know how true the stuff is, but it's an interesting story. It's believed by most of the people that live in Haiti, and it could be an effect of poison.
Poison, you say?
Poison. So, do you like my Halloween stuff?
That was fantastic.
I had fun looking at all.
Very much enjoyed that.
Goofers, root doctors, witches, zombies.
That's right.
Yes, but I hope everybody has a wonderful Halloween.
Yes. That's going to do it for this episode, everyone. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.